It is Tuesday night, and that means another episode of Goal Horns and Fight Songs. And finally, we have had some conference play. There was some non-conference play um, with some of the teams, some teams that were off, but the season's getting started, and now we're going to be able to figure out where teams stand.
Yeah, we're gonna get a clear picture of what's happening. Some surprising turnouts, some not so surprising turnouts on the weekend. Um, and we always know that what you do in the non-conference, it's good for the pairwise, but it's really not going to tell you where you're sitting in the conference. So we're getting down to the beginning of where everything's going to shake out, and the race for the Penrose is just starting. But we got some teams that have pulled to a pretty big lead so far.
Yeah, there. I was just talking with my parents this past weekend, and um, my mom was asking me, "Well, how's St. Cloud doing?" And I go, "Not where we expected them to be." Well, how's North Dakota? They're not where we expected them to be either. So there is some surprises, but I think we're not going to really know until they get into conference play, which fully starts this weekend, this coming weekend, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have every game's watchable and everything on NCHC TV. Every game watchable may be a misnomer because there are some bad setups across the NCHC. For whatever reason, the games took place in Omaha, but that camera was on the fucking moon.
At
And
least it's not from 1993, like the old videotape, you know, Sony camera handheld.
hey, as long as your camera operator follows the puck and is in a zone behind half the time, or they're not running replays in the middle of action happening, uh, they can't do any worse than what Nebraska was putting out this weekend. Man, the games were better than the video feed would portray them to be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, ours, they didn't know where the puck was. I would say a good 80% of the time. Uh, but it was actually kind of funny because my parents they don't pay for the HD and just standard def. And I'm like, how these cameras are so bad. And my mom asked me, is it like this online too? I said, yeah,
They
it's
have
just
standard
as
definition
bad.
cameras. They just
it,
have standard def cameras. That's all it is.
yeah, it's not good. And they can't follow the play. But anyway, uh I think we should get into some scores from this past weekend.
Let's do it. Let's start all the way out on the East Coast in Boston, Massachusetts, a place that North Dakota has struggled in. I was listening to last week's episode of the UND podcast and didn't realize that North Dakota has had such struggles both against Boston University and in Boston. Um, they pick up their first win there ever in an OT winner on Saturday. Struggled a little bit Friday. I mean, it was a pretty close game. I think we're right on with where we thought Ludwig Person is as a player. Extremely talented, can keep your team in games. Um, but he's doing more with a better defense in front of him, which I don't think we ever, really didn't think was the case. We knew it was a Miami struggles all around, and he was the bright spot of that team. But he's brought that bright spot to Grand Forks, and with the Fighting Hawks now, he's no longer a Red Hawk, still a Hawk, but a Fighting Hawk instead of a Red Hawk. Um, so they're benefiting pretty great from him. They played well despite all the injury bug that seems to be going through that team. Um, so they definitely seem to be more of a team to watch now. Again, like it'll be interesting to see how they do in conference play, how all those transfers hold up, and how they acclimate to the game style that is NCHC hockey. Um, But yeah, definitely playing a lot better hockey than I think we were expecting them to be at this point in the season for sure.
And I think the biggest thing with them too is yes, we had that question mark of the the defensive core gelling and them being all brand new to the program, but I think the talent level just outweighs what person had at Miami. And anybody that knows anything about hockey knew how talented of a goaltender that he was, or that he is, I should say. Um, and just upping that talent level and the basics of everything that North Dakota has amplifies his game. So I yes, I am surprised that they're playing this well um, in the non-conference, but at the same time, I shouldn't be that shocked knowing how good of a goalie person is, and just the next tier of talent that is in front of him, even if they are completely brand new and don't have that chemistry quite yet.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other thing that we kind of forget too is like college hockey is a different animal than a lot of college sports. These players have spent time away from their families in some instances, or most instances. This is not like their second or third team they've ever played on, so they're used to having to gel with guys quickly and get used to a new system. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so in that regards, I think they're ahead of a lot of other sports. Um, but it is always interesting to see what teams struggle to do that and what teams do it well. It'll also be interesting to see if they got off to too quick of a start, and if they struggle later in the year. We see that happen quite a bit sometimes too. Is guys just or teams, they come out of the gates super hot and they cool down by the middle of the year and they struggle to get it going again at the end and miss out on the spots. But they seem to be a determined team to not miss out on the tournament for in back to back seasons. And
Well, and I think
they played a really good non conference schedule to make sure that doesn't happen.
even for the kids coming in, they understand what the program means to the community and that area of the country, and that I mean it's like playing college football in Alabama or playing college basketball at Duke or Indiana. It's honestly, like Alabama, they don't have a pro sports team. That is their pro sports team. Indiana, the Pacers almost play second fiddle to Indiana basketball. Duke uh, and North Carolina, they have their rivalry, whatever. But yeah, University of North Dakota, that is the professional hockey team, because they it's still a few hours north to Winnipeg, and you have to go through the whole border crossing thing and whatever, and it's 5 6 hours down to the Twin Cities for the Wild. So this is what they have. And I think the kids get that when they go there. And I think that's why they go there too, is they understand the magnitude of the program and they're going to perform.
Yeah, and it's a program with a lot of history, much like BU. This was a very history heavy series. Another series with a lot of history was Minnesota versus Minnesota Duluth.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of emotion in that series too this weekend. Um, Duluth has been struggling a little bit. They kind of took a beating on Friday, but came back on Saturday to earn the tie there. I believe they got the win in the shootout. So while it's as much for
Mm-hmm.
bragging rights as anything else, it doesn't really count towards the pairwise or on the stat sheet. But the boys in the Bulldog sweaters know that they won a game, and a very emotional game, being as they were the home team for the first time since the passing of their alum, Adam Johnson. And they did a really good job of um, memorializing that event and paying tribute to him throughout the game and the weekend. Saturday they had his jersey hanging behind the bench, and I believe the player who was currently wearing number 7 changed numbers um, for the.
Yeah.
I hope for the rest of the season. Um,
Yeah, it was Blake Biondi, and they had his jersey hanging for both games, but Blake Biondi, Hermantown player, he was wearing number 7, and then he changed his number for or because of Adam's passing, and every indication that I heard, I didn't get to watch Friday's game, but I was listening as much as I could to Bruce Siskey, and on Friday, and then after a while, I just knew the game was out of hand and I changed it. But he did mention that, and um, just an honorable and respectable move by Biondi to change his number. I think anybody in that position um, would do the same thing. The I heard this. I think it was last week when UMD was playing Cornell. They were like the most penalized team in the nation, or one of the most penalized teams in the nation. And Friday proved that as well. It was like a red carpet into the penalty box. Um, we just could not stay out of the box. And the Gophers are a team that you can't do that against. You do not want to be shorthanded against them. I mean, shoot, you don't really want to play 5-on-5 against them. But if you're a good defensive team, you can handle them. Jimmy Snuggerud, when I was watching on Saturday, holy crap. That dude has an NHL shot at the Division 1 level. His release is so quick. It is I I don't know how he doesn't have 20 goals already. Like it's unbelievable how good he is at shooting the puck. Um, but the the penalties killed us on Friday, and then Saturday did a decent job. It was pretty even up. Capitalized on our power play opportunities, and then Thiessen played out of his mind in the overtime period. There was no chance, unless he played the way that he did, that we were going to win that game. The Gophers had multiple opportunities to win that game, and Thiessen got it to overtime, or well, he got it to the shootout, I should say. Um, yeah, he helped get it to overtime, but he got it to the shootout, and then it only took 2 shooters. I think it was Steve's. I had messaged you about it, but I think it was Steve's absolutely undressed close, and it was just not fair. Uh, and then Thiessen had a save at another nice shot for us, and then I don't even know who it was for the Gophers, but he completely whiffed on his shootout attempt, and then shootout over, we win.
yeah, nice short shootouts are great every once in a while. Western had a rather long one with Ferris State earlier in the year. Um, but the other thing I was going to mention is that I believe it was Duluth captain Luke Lohheit that was one of the first players to come out and request the neck guard, um, wanting to start wearing that. And other institutions have said that they will make it available upon request for players, um, and look into ordering those. So him coming out and being one of the first, I think, was a step in the right direction for getting those into college hockey, and hopefully at continuing to use them at higher ranks. I know that we mentioned the Penguins ECHL team and AHL team will be mandated to wear them for the remainder of the season. The league in which Adam played will be mandating them at the beginning of the year in January, giving players an opportunity uh, to get them. So steps in the right direction to hopefully make the game of hockey a little bit safer, considering there's guys running around with blades on their feet.
Yeah, and there were I heard it as I was driving up on Friday. There were three players for UMD that were wearing them. Loney, I think it was Loney, Lowhite, and someone else, and I don't remember exactly which one got one from where, but one of them had one from playing internationally for like a juniors team or something like that, which was mandated. Another one got it from a student manager that had one lying around, and then the third player, his parents shipped it to him almost immediately because he had one lying around at home. So it's it's something that players are definitely taking notice of. And I did see a quote from TJ Oshie where he said, they're adults, they can make their own decisions, but I want to be around and minimize the risk for my kids. Um, and everyone's allowed to make their own choices. They can do what they want. Uh, but I really hope that production ramps up for these and it becomes more mandated, because yeah, you look cool without one on, but it's a lot better to stick around if you can help it. So
Yeah. And I mean, everyone wants to mention that, it's such a random event or a low um, happening event, but it's literally happened like twice in the last year. There was the kid from, I can't remember if he played at Army or if he was playing against Army, but that it happened to uh, at one point. Um, the most famous ones are the goaltender in the NHL. Um,
Malarchuk.
Yeah, Evander Kane had his wrist cut last year. That ended up being almost being another event. I mean, he had to get stitches and missed a few games because of it. Um,
You
and
you see a Achilles cut. You see
it took literally the loss of a life for this to be something that we're literally going to sit down and think about. And everyone's first thought is, well, it happens so rarely. Yes, but the fact is, it's a manageable risk that potentially didn't have to happen. Like, we shouldn't have to get to that point for these discussions to take place. It should be common sense that you want to protect your athletes and, I don't know, not put thousands of people at potentially traumatic viewing of something that they weren't prepared for and they weren't expecting, and take the life of someone from numerous loved ones. Like, it's a bunch of nonsense, but I'm glad we're moving in a better direction because of it.
and I do think, you know, are these precautions 100%, like, are they going to work every single time? We don't know that, but the fact that they're there and they are tested, and it's something to be put in place, I'd take that over nothing at all. And you know, if it I don't know what the odds are, but say it's like 1 in 10,000 that it happens right now. If it goes from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 10 million because of all these protective measures, I will take that every day.
Oh yeah.
And I really hope it's zero, but it's like anything. Um, you never know, and there just might be that complete freak accident that it happens. But yeah, I'm with you. It just really sucks that it took the loss of someone's life, um, to have this happen, especially as random as it is, somebody that I knew.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so yeah, back to hockey. Uh, Big win for the Bulldogs, even though it goes down as a tie. I it's been a long time since I've seen Amsoil that packed, and it was a lot of fun to see on Saturday.
Yeah, but it was.
Uh, let's see. Looking down based off Friday, looks like we're on to your Broncos.
Yeah, Friday they looked good. Penalties were quite a bit of an issue that could have been the way the refs were calling the game. I think there was some silliness going on there. Some things that I don't think should have been penalties were called penalties. Some things that shouldn't have or that weren't called penalties that should have been. Uh, the Broncos did a decent job of killing off. I think they allowed one power play goal. Um, the offense showed up and showed out Friday night. Saturday was a little bit different story. Um, Western responded a couple times. They were able to get to force overtime, using the extra attacker and getting the goal with I think like 11 seconds left in the game. But the offense just wasn't putting it together Saturday. Passes weren't as clean as they were on Friday. Opportunities weren't as um, good on Saturday as they were Friday. I will say though, I think it was probably one of the better defensive weekends that we had. Um, the two goals that they scored on Friday, that Cam really didn't have much of a chance on. Uh, One they had a beautiful screen out front, and I don't even know that he knew the puck beat him when it did. The other one was a power play goal that they ran the power play right and got everybody moving. Saturday it was a couple good passes and some missed opportunities to clear the puck by the Broncos, and they ended up in the back of our net. The overtime goal was a beautiful move and a well played shot to beat Cam. So I mean, overall, I think the defense played a lot better this weekend, and it was really more our transition game wasn't there, and our offense wasn't clicking. But Western, the bright side is Western still has not lost in regulation, and they took 4 out of the 6 points on the weekend. So really, it was a winning weekend in a barn that Western has struggled in. Um, so again, to get the majority of the points there, I think is something we can look as a positive. But go through the game film and see where we can improve our game and not put ourselves in as many positions to take less than optimal penalties, whether they deserve to be called or not. I mean, don't put yourself in a position where one could be called, especially when the refs seem to be looking for them.
Uh, sorry, I'm having a complete blank moment. Yeah, I didn't see any of any of those games, but for for Western to get a win in Omaha, it's just a place that a lot of teams have struggled, but especially Western has seemed to struggle. It's kind of like UMD for Miami for whatever reason. Uh, I think that was a good split. Get a split on the road. You don't get swept. Able to steal one on the road. That's a positive sign. But I don't have much else to say about that one. I'm also trying to write down the notes for our predictions that are coming up for this weekend. So I'm halfway paying attention.
Next
Oh,
up is Miami at St. Cloud. Tale of two different games. Again, a tight Friday game. Uh, Miami did not have as much luck in St. Cloud as they did last season. Miami played a pretty decent majority of their non-conference schedule. I think some of those games are closer than they looked. I think they're going to be a team that, once again, I think it'll be interesting to see what they do now that conference play is here. They've struggled mightily the last few years in conference games, and Saturday was just a straight drumming. 6-0, never really got into the flow of the game. St. Cloud looked like the St. Cloud we thought they were going to be. I think, was it? I know, I think that was the Denver series. no, it was the St. Cloud series. I think one game like they only had 15 shots on goal the entire game. I think it was the Saturday shutout game. Uh, and
I can tell you.
I'll look it up to you. But I mean, honestly, like the fact that he was tuned in, like that's kind of a game where you don't necessarily. You're like, okay, cool, I can get a shutout here on 15 saves. Um, yeah, it was the Saturday St. Cloud game. Um, but we hear consistently that like when goaltenders aren't seeing shots regularly, like it's harder for them to stay engaged, and that's when you might see one trickle in or sneak past a goaltender. So for him to be in the game and dialed in and make all 15 saves, I think speaks a lot to his character and talents there. And or not
Mm-hmm.
Castor, I'm sorry, Bassey. Castor left. It's Dominic Bassey's
Yeah,
net.
Caster. Yeah. Yep.
Um, but the fact, I mean, again, he stayed engaged and stayed with the game and kept the Redhawks out of from scoring. So kudos to him and an outstanding performance. Really, if it were up to me, he would have been my goalie of the week. I get why Thiessen was, but I think Bassey put together 2 games, and while you might say that the one win over Minnesota might mean more, realistically, pairwise wise, standings wise, the 2 wins does more for his team for Bassey than the one does for Duluth in all uh, standing wise. But the emotional win for Duluth, I think, is still a big card and weighs heavily on other voters.
And I think, the emotional card has something to do with it, but then also the caliber of opponent. Um, I know when we were going through our predictions, we did not predict a sweep by St. Cloud. Um, we had them splitting. I was looking, I had it as Miami instead of St. Cloud. Um, but St. Cloud did show up. Friday's game was a little bit closer than Saturday's. Not that that was hard to do, but they finally showed the team that we thought they were going to be. Um, yes, they've had their struggles, but I think they needed that series against Miami to actually get into the groove of things. And I agree. You know, I understand Thiessen beat Minnesota, um, but he only played one game. Staceco played the first game, ended up getting taken out. I think they said because of injury, which I didn't I didn't realize. I didn't hear that on the broadcast. I think part of it was mental, and then especially with Adam being his cousin, makes sense that he didn't play Saturday. Big win for Thiessen, but you play a conference team, and you get the 2 wins. Bassey probably would have been my goaltender of the week as well. So good to see St. Cloud get back on the wagon, and good to see Miami get back on their wagon of losing again too.
Yeah. Next up, wrapping up the start of conference play on the weekend is Denver and Colorado College. Home and home series for these 2 teams. History reset itself. Denver looked incredible. Um, thought Colorado was going to be a little bit more competitive. I think at times it was, um, but Denver really capitalized when they had the opportunity to. Their rookie goalie played incredibly, and Colorado. I mean, once again, I think the offense of Colorado College we knew was kind of going to be a struggle. It was kind of a surprise that they were up there at 4 goals a game. Um, Defensively, I think they struggled a little bit more than I was kind of expecting to. I was definitely expecting these to be closer games, but Denver just had everything clicking from the goaltender to the offense and really dominated the series all weekend long. and not much more really needs to be said about it.
Yeah, Denver whooped that A. I mean, I'm with you. I thought these games were going to be closer. I I thought a 3-goal game would have been the most, and that would have been a blowout. Um, I I did not expect 6-1 and 5-1, respectively, Friday and Saturday. I don't know what happened. I didn't see it. Um, I'm just like you said, Colorado College's offense we figured might be suspect, especially with losing McCown after last year, and him moving up. I don't know what they're gonna do when it comes to conference play because there are teams that are scoring a lot more now, other than Miami. Like UMD's goals are up. North Dakota is scoring. Obviously, Denver is scoring. Western, they can score a lot of goals. I think Colorado College is they're gonna fall right back into where they were because they can't score, and Emberico can only do so much, and based off of this past weekend, they need a lot of help defensively. So I think the Tigers are probably falling back into the same pattern like Miami did this past weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that that's necessarily the case. They did get off to a slow start last year. They came on at the end, but I was definitely expecting that defense to be to carry over some of that. Um, I think Iberico actually got pulled in the first game. Not something we're used to seeing out of him, but again,
Yeah, I
I
think
that was something that I did question at the beginning of the season, though, is just how these sophomore goalies were gonna play and um, show up and what they were gonna bring to the table. That Cozy was a little bit more consistent for Nebraska than uh, Emberico was, and he knows that those are big series and big games. They play for the gold pan, and it's something he wants to help Colorado College win. But I think there might have been a little bit of billboard or bulletin board material from him earlier in the week, so that might have led to making sure they ran the score up a little bit. But I think the next series will be a good one too. Like I don't discount either one of these teams. It'll just be interesting to see where Colorado College goes from here. Um, I predicted them to be a little bit better than last year, and it'll really come down to how they play within the conference to solidify that or not. And they've got they're doing some travel in this weekend. They face their counterpart there at the bottom of the NCHC the last few years, coming all the way over to my time zone to play Miami in Oxford, Ohio. So it'll be interesting to see how that series goes. Um, there's two more non-conference series this weekend, so we're not quite into the full conference schedule. Um, so we won't get to see all of the games on NCHC TV. We'll miss out on the Arizona State Denver series that's going to become a conference series next year. So teams again getting another look before Arizona State becomes that ninth member of the NCHC.
yeah. So I was just gonna really quickly go back to Umberco and getting pulled. I think the only time he got pulled last year was when he hurt like his tooth or something, like chipped a
Yeah,
tooth
I
or
think
something
so.
in St. Cloud. Um, that was the only time he got pulled, and I think he's the type of kid where you know maybe it's not so much for his sake. It's just trying to jumpstart the team that you're going to pull him. but I don't think he ever wants to get pulled from a game, and I think he's gonna have a strong comeback series this next series because even if you left him in there, he has such a high compete level that he's not going to pull a Patrick Waugh and say, or like in Slapshot, where he picks up the phone, trade me right now, hangs up the phone. He he's going to want to be better, and he's going to want to learn, and he's going to want to fight through that. So that'll be interesting to see. And then I was just going to go over our picks from last week before we get into next week's game. UMD versus the Gophers. We both went 2-0, had the home team winning both of those, even though the NCAA considers Saturday a tie. We're two idiots that talk about college hockey, so we're not doing that. It's just wins and losses. North Dakota against Boston. I had North Dakota sweeping the series. You had them winning Friday, losing Saturday. Well, they lost Friday and they won Saturday. So I was 3-1. You were 2-2 after that. Denver, Colorado College. We had that as a split. Same with the home teams winning each game. That was wrong. So I was 4-2. You were 3-3. Because Denver swept that series. Western, I had them losing Friday, winning Saturday. You had them winning Friday, losing Saturday. Well, you were correct. I was wrong. So it's 4-4. You were 5-3, and then Miami, we had that as a split. They did get swept, so I ended up 5-5. You 6-4. So the overall standings are: I'm still above 500, 28-27, just 3 games behind you at 31-24.
Woohoo. Yeah, I mean, it's going to get harder to pick these as we go on. I mean, there's going to be less games, so, but the competition's
Yeah,
going to
we're
get closer and closer, and it's going to be a little bit more wishy-washy in how we go about these things.
mm-hmm.
But big weekend ahead. Again, we've got 3 conference series, 2 non-conference series. Who is not playing this weekend? Well, everybody's playing this weekend.
Yeah, everyone has a game this weekend.
So, well, I guess we'll start it off. We'll go by start time, which would put us in Kalamazoo at 7 o'clock start, which won't
Mm-hmm.
really be a 7 o'clock start. It'll be like just after, but they say 7 o'clock. St. Cloud travels to Western Michigan. 2 teams that I kind of expected to be near the top of the conference. St. Cloud's currently tied for first after sweeping Miami. Western's sitting in what would be, or I think they're in third, picking up 4 points on the weekend. A good little tilt in store. Again, teams that compete very well against each other. I think they only played 1 series last year, and it was a split in St. Cloud. Different teams on either side. I think the key pieces are still there from last year. I do think Western has the slight advantage in the offense, but St. Cloud is a little bit better defensively, so it'll be interesting to see how those match up. It's in front of the Lunatics. We know that student section brings a ton of energy to the game. They're there the whole 60 minutes. And here's a fun fact for you: Western just got the ability to sell alcohol at college hockey games. So those little monsters, if they're of legal age, are going to be even worse than they were before. Not that they weren't getting
Oh boy.
alcohol through other means, but they'll be able
Yeah.
to continue drinking their adult beverages throughout the game, and it'll be interesting to see what that does to the atmosphere there at Lawson.
Yeah, the pregame goes into the game and leads into the post game. There's no intermission there.
But I expect it to be two extremely competitive matchups. 7 o'clock Friday, 6 o'clock Saturday, both able to be viewed on NCHC TV. Um, and I'll give my picks a little later
Why later? We're doing
because
we're doing this now.
I'm still thinking about it a little bit. So I'll let you speak your piece, and then we'll see where I'm at.
Well, I got mine. I think I do think St. Cloud, they're going to be feeling pretty good about themselves coming out of that series with uh Miami. They got the sweep, they got the shutout. They're feeling pretty good, but now they have to travel on the road. And thanks to that little tidbit of information, I already had my picks in, but it just kind of solidifies the fact that Friday is going to be raucous at Lawson, and it is going to be so hard for the Huskies to play there. I think Western wins on Friday, but I do think St. Cloud has somewhat started to figure it out, and I think they make the adjustments, and I think the Huskies get the win on Saturday. So I think it's a split. Western winning Friday, St. Cloud winning on Saturday.
Western's got to mitigate the penalties, whatever that means, however they can do it. They've got to play a clean game. If they can take advantage of their own power plays, if they're given the opportunity, I do think the Western power play is a little bit more dangerous than the St. Cloud power play. Um,
Yes, it is.
Bassey's a really good goaltender. He's a big guy. They've got to get bodies in front of him and take away his eyes anytime they can. But there's some deadly shooters on this Western team. Um, they're going to want to prove that, there's going to be a different feel to the Friday game. I think they're going to try and come out hot and play 60 minutes. I think Western can win the Friday game. I'm going to say they win the Friday game just because I think it's going to be electric in there. And St. Cloud's really going to have to do quite a bit to quiet that crowd down. Um, but Western's playing some decent defense right now. If they keep that rolling, it'll put them in a good spot. Uh, and Saturday, I'm hoping that there's not a hangover both on the ice and in the stands. Um, it's a early.
They're just going to do hair of the dog. They're
Yeah,
just going to not stop.
I
So
mean they might. Those
they're
Westerns,
college kids. They can handle that at this point.
yeah. Uh, they are a breed of their own. But
Trust me, I know.
earlier start time to the game on Saturday. Um, can Western put two games back to back? We've seen them do it in the past. I'm hoping that last week was a fluke and them coming out flat Saturday is not going to be the norm here. It's still early in the season, though. I think it could go either way, but I'm kind of expecting Western to sweep the weekend. Um, I just think they're talented enough to do it, and it's going to be the environment there is going to be absolutely crazy, and it's going to be a fun to experience two games in that building this weekend. So I'm going to give Western the sweep.
Already. I was going to say pitter patter.
They've yet to lose in regulation. I think they keep that continuing. As previously mentioned, the next start time is 7:05 Eastern. This is a battle of the two
The
basement
bottom feeder. This is
dwellers.
the toilet bowl.
Um, I think both teams are kind of more improved than they've been in the past. Goaltender wise, Colorado has the edge. I trust Umberko, even though Neaton has played extremely well early in the season. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the Umberko person
Person.
matchup that we were kind of hoping to get another year of, and we will. It'll just be when Colorado
with
College
different
plays North
teams.
Dakota.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we're gonna see a split here. Both teams are gonna want to avenge what happened to them last weekend, being swept. I'm gonna say Miami wins Friday. No, I'm not. I'm gonna actually give Colorado College the win Friday. I think they're probably gonna fly in Thursday, get that skate to get the legs going from sitting on the plane. They'll get a nice early morning skate in on Friday and be ready to go. Um, I think Saturday will hit them a little harder than the Friday night will, and so they'll struggle Saturday. So I will go Miami, Colorado College Friday, Miami Saturday. Those will be my picks on those two.
And that's exactly what I have is Colorado College winning Friday, Miami winning Saturday. I just think I mean it's kind of all the reasons that you laid out and Colorado College, I just think they're the better team and they're going to want to jump on Miami right away, and as soon as you jump on a team like Miami and get a 1 or 2 goal lead, they're going to kind of crumple. And then on Saturday, Miami's going to do exactly the same thing. And yes, Emberko is a very, very good goaltender. There's no denying that. But I just don't think Colorado College, especially after last weekend, they don't have that offensive power that can um that can dig them out of a hole. Now, could we be completely wrong? Yeah. Um, but I just think I think each team is going to jump on the other one in the game Friday and Saturday, and whatever team gets jumped on is not going to win.
Next up, a 7:07 Central start. LIU makes the trip to Nebraska Omaha. These teams have played in the past. I want to say like they've played like the last 3 years or the last 2 years. I think this will be the third series between the two potentially. LIU's getting a little bit better every year. It just feels like a kind of a beat 'em up game for Omaha, or at least they're hoping it to be. They're coming off of a kind of, I mean, a big win, but kind of a disappointing win at the same time. They weren't ever really able to take full advantage of a Western team that wasn't playing its best game for sure, and you could see it on the ice. They did get the win. You know, they did score the first goal. Western responded pretty quickly. Omaha retakes the lead. They allow Western to score late in the game. Omaha scores again in overtime to seal the deal, but they let Western linger, and it wasn't a complete game by Omaha either. I do think Omaha is still the better team. It's on home ice. Nebraska, for whatever reason, is a tough place to play for a lot of teams. Uh, and I think Omaha has had a pretty good record over LIU, and I'm going to say that that continues with Omaha winning Friday and Saturday.
I have that as a sweep as well, and it's just there are certain new teams that have figured out the formula. Um, LIU has been a program for longer than St. Thomas. St. Thomas, it's taken them a couple years. Augustana, we really don't know exactly what they have, but they played really well against Colorado College and Denver. Um, I mean, shit, they won a game. Uh, it, different programs take different times to develop, but I think LIU being where they are and it's such a saturated market, it's just taking them longer to develop their program. Um, Omaha, I do think is a better team, and I have them sweeping. especially what they did last year. Even though, as we talked about in our predictions, think they're going to fall off a little bit. They're still just the better team, and
Yeah.
so um, yeah, they get the sweep on home ice in the bubble arena. That's what I'm going to call it, the bubble arena.
In the bubble dome.
Yep,
Uh,
the bubble dome.
I'll let you take the next one, considering it's your team. They're also starting at 7:07 Central Time.
Yeah, and I have to check. Okay, so next one is my Bulldogs taking on the Fighting Hawks of North Dakota in another old WCHA rivalry game. I I was talking with our sales director about this actually today. Um, he's a Gophers fan, but he always talks to me about college hockey and the Bulldogs, and I just don't feel great about this series. Um, especially with what North Dakota's been able to do, and then you add on the layer of what Person has done in his career at Miami against UMD. Um, I feel a split in this, but that might be wishful thinking because if we can't stay out of the frickin' penalty box, we're going to get swept. If there's a sweep, it's going to be the way of North Dakota. It's not going to be the way of the Bulldogs because we can't stay out of the box. Um, so the way that I'm leaning is UMD wins Friday because they're still riding that little bit of a high from beating the Gophers in the shootout and sticking with a high level opponent. But I think Saturday the penalties catch up with us and North Dakota wins on Saturday. So I think it's Bulldogs Friday, Fighting Hawks on Saturday.
Let's see here. They swept the icebreaker tournament. They split with Minnesota. They have a win and a tie against Minnesota State, a split with Boston. I mean, honestly, that icebreaker tournament, if it's the most impressive win of that was the fact that they beat Wisconsin 2-0. I mean, it's a Wisconsin team that's
Mankato East.
newly formed, but I mean that Wisconsin team is playing extremely well, and for them to get a 2-0 win early in the season speaks to the fact that it was an early in the season win. Um, but North Dakota's competing, and they're competing against extremely high-ranking teams. I mean, they came back and beat Minnesota when they were ranked first. Um, they put a whooping on Minnesota State in the first game, ended up tying 2-2, losing the shootout in the second game. Battled a tough Boston team, getting a true or a split and an overtime win there. Um, I think the splits continue for Minnesota or for North Dakota. I think Minnesota Duluth is still in an emotional state. Um, them being on home ice, I think, helps them a little bit. The Ralph is, it's spoken about in the same standards that Lawson is. Just the home crowd gives so much energy to that home team. If you can get North Dakota on your home ice, it benefits you a little bit. Now, what degree? I mean, that's kind of both teams are playing in the noise. So North Dakota knows how to play in loud environments. Minnesota Duluth seems to have lost a little bit of its atmosphere. Hopefully, they can bring that back.
Oh yeah.
Thiessen played great. Hopefully he can maintain that or Stay can find his game again. He's really struggled since his freshman year, uh, that year that he was splitting
Mhm.
with Fanti. Uh,
Yeah, and he wasn't even, I mean, it was more of like a 70-30, but then he's really struggled since his cancer diagnosis, and then he was out, and then last year he struggled, and now losing his cousin, it just kind of, poor kid just can't catch a break as far as that goes.
yeah. The offense of Minnesota Duluth seems to be coming around. Steves is playing extremely well.
God, he's good.
I'm not sure what the injury status is of the North Dakota players. Apparently, their injury report will come out tomorrow, so that might be something to look into. But if Duluth can take advantage of that, I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to keep their play going and pick up the win Friday. Um, I think North Dakota will respond, and we'll get it. Really, just a matter of what they're able to do against Person. We know he can face a lot of shots, but eventually holes will open. So just keep firing pucks and getting him to the net. Take his eyes away any opportunity he can, get somebody in front of him, uh, and that's really the way you beat him. And I still don't know that the North Dakota defense is completely locked down. I think it has some holes, and BU kind of showed some of them. But BU's a team that is expected to be really good this year too. So who knows how much of that is their talent outweighing the North Dakota talent, and does Minnesota Duluth have that same caliber of players? I really believe they do, but I do think that North Dakota will respond and get a win on Saturday. So I have it Duluth Friday, North Dakota Saturday, which I believe is the same as you.
Yep, that is the same as me. And I think the biggest catalyst of the whole series is going to be the chess match between our shooters and Person, because Person has proven, even with a less talented team, that he can beat the Bulldogs. And so
Yeah, I think he has like multiple 50 games or 50 save games.
I think even just against us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so he has that ability to beat us, and he knows our shooters and their tendencies.
And I mean, he's a
So
3-time
I
reigning goalie of the week. I think he's goalie of the month for the NCHC. Um, he's a solid goaltender. He just did not have the talent in front of him at Miami that he does in North Dakota. But that to be said, North Dakota is an extremely inconsistent team. I mean, even from shift to shift,
mhm,
they are still not the North Dakotas that we have seen of the past, where they can just come in and steamroll pretty much anybody and everybody, except for maybe Denver has been one of their
yeah.
key uh, teams that could kind of smack them in the mouth and settle them back down. Minnesota Duluth has that ability to do it too, but I think Denver's been more consistent with it um, lately.
Yeah. I think out of anybody on that North Dakota team, though, the one person that scares me is Person. Like, just because he's had our number, and I don't know what it is. You know, they say it in any sport. For whatever reason, you just have a team's number, whether it just be the whole team, or in baseball, you have a pitcher's number, you love hitting off them. Ludwig Person loves playing against the Bulldogs, and I just really hope he struggles.
I mean, really, the only teams that Pearson has legitimately struggled against are Western Michigan and Denver. And other than that, he's been extremely competitive with everybody else in the conference. He might have a winning record against every other team in the conference. Um, but for whatever reason, Western and Denver, maybe it's just because of their ability to get shots on goal at a different rate than other teams, or they get eyes in front of him. And Western is just so constantly, they see him each other 4 times a year. But really, those are the only two teams that he's struggled against uh, in the past in the conference.
Yeah, I joked today with Max. I said, well, if Miami had 6 wins on the season, two probably came against UMD
Yeah,
just just because of person. So finally the last series of the weekend is Denver against future NCHC participant Arizona State. Um to me, there's not a whole lot to say about this. I just think Denver keeps on rolling.
they are playing in Mullet Arena. Uh, the Arizona State unis, depending on which ones they use, are fire. Full pun intended, because one of them has fire on it. So that was the joke. Joke's less funny when you explain it. But that one, So, shut up.
This is
Internal
why
mind.
you're not a comedian.
Internal thoughts are out loud thoughts right now. I think they've improved somewhat. Let's see what their record is right now. They're playing. Like I said, they're kind of doing a little bit of a half NCHC schedule this season. Um, really gearing up for that entrance into the conference. I like that they're coming over. I think they're going to be a fun addition. I know Western has seen them once, and they're not going to get to see them potentially every year, or they won't make it to Lawson every year. But they're
Well,
they're
while
they're
you
something different. They are currently 6-1-1, 6-0 at home, 1-1 on the road. They've played. They swept Merrimack, Northern Michigan. They lost and tied with Miami, and just most recently swept Stonehill. So I mean,
well, Stonehill is a new program. Northern, I think we split with them. I know we played Northern, um, and got at least one win out of the deal. I think it was technically a win and a tie, but Arizona State, they're a team. I would kind of compare them to like an Omaha, where they're just a middle of the pack team. They can have really good weekends and they can have really bad weekends, but they're going to be consistently in that middle of the pack. So, yes, I'm excited because it's going to provide competitive hockey. Um, but their non-conference schedule, I mean, Stonehill, they're like a brand new program, and Merrimack is not very good. Northern's the one team that I'm kind of like, okay, that's a decent one.
I mean, I'm glad they beat Merrimack and Northern. I'm a little scared of the loss and the tie to uh, Miami, but any given weekend, um, type situation there.
Yeah, and Miami, I mean, well, we've been saying it for the past couple weeks. We're like, Miami's not playing too bad, and then all of a sudden this weekend happens, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, there they are. There's the Miami we know.
I will say though, Denver does have a rookie goalie. If you could take advantage of that situation and put up some goals and stay out of the box and not give Denver a lot of opportunities, they have a chance. I don't know that it's a big chance. I think them being at home gives them a little bit of a step up, but I think I want to say that they actually have a win over Denver at some point.
They might.
Let me double
I
check it.
actually think that sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, they're 1-8-1 against
Yeah,
Denver.
yeah,
Um,
and I think they did win
and it was a
in
home game.
yeah, yep, down in wherever the hell they are.
Tempe.
Well, I mean, for the goalie, I mean, they're voted one of the most attractive colleges every year. So just student section, women to the front, distract the goalie. Of course, my
I mean, it's kind of hard to distract him when you're behind him, but maybe that second
oh,
period,
he's gonna turn around.
water breaks.
My one. See, I say that, but then the last year of the WCHA, my one roommate was at the championship game because Wisconsin won it, and he said when the Ice Girls came out at the X, the Wisconsin goalie just kept like he was following one of the Ice Girls the whole time, and they won. So who knows what this rookie goalie what helps him focus.
Uh, I think Denver just continues the run that they're on. I think they end Arizona's winning streak at home. Denver getting the win both Friday and Saturday. I'm going to give the sweep to Denver.
Yeah,
I do like
that's
Arizona
the
State.
same
I
thing.
think they're on the right path. They've just been such a mediocre team, and Denver has been an elite team for the last few years. So it's hard to really vote against them. But that'll do it for the week coming up. We will say once we get into full NCHC TV games where we can actually watch all 4 games, and we'll deal with the poopy cameras that are existent in some places. We might come out with some stuff in the future. We're still working on it, still trying to nail it down, make sure we're getting it right. So once again for this week, we'll just go with the players that the NCHC gave us for the players of the week. Forward Joe Molinar, who I believe had a hat trick in the Saturday game against Miami. Defenseman Griffin Ludke for Omaha. Rookie of the week, goaltender Freddie Halleck from Denver. And goaltender of the week, Matthew Thiessen from Minnesota Duluth. And we've already kind of given our thoughts on at least that one. Rookie of the week, he had 2 wins, gave up 2 goals on the weekend. I think when I did the math, he had like a 9.5 save percentage. Really, it was between him and Bassie for my goaltenders of the week. So for him to get rookie of the week, I think is the right choice there. Defenseman, you lose one game, you tie the second. I mean, I think he was like +3 on the weekend, which really just means that he was there for his team's goals, and not out there when Western was putting up 7 of their own goals. So he somehow lucked out in that regard. When your team gives up 7 goals, they're not necessarily all on the goalie, so it's hard for me to say that UNO really had any defenseman of the week. To be fair, I don't know that Western really did either. It probably should have been a St. Cloud player. But I couldn't point to just one from St. Cloud. I was trying to watch all the games that I could, but
could have been a Denver player too.
Yeah,
only giving up 2 goals
on the weekend. St. Cloud only gave up 2 goals on the weekend too. They just both happened to come Friday. Forward of the week, the hat trick speaks a lot. So really can't argue with much there. The only one I have a clear argument with is the goaltender, but I think they're playing the emotional card, and it is tough to play with that much emotion floating around the program. So for him to pick up a win in the shootout and get his team, play well enough for his team to tie one of the better teams in the country right now and go up against arguably one of the better goaltenders in the country. Congratulations to Matt Thiessen on the award and a great couple games of hockey.
And I will say, I mean, even though he played, maybe the last little part of Friday, but then all of Saturday, and this is me saying this, not seeing any of the other goaltending performances. I mean, he literally made a diving save in overtime, and he made another save. The performance that he put on in overtime, as far as skill level, and probably partly luck, um, that would be an argument. But overall stats, I would say no. Uh, it's just every goalie is going to make great plays. It just so happened that his push it to overtime, and it is funny. I'll have to send you the video, because the one diving save that he made, the Gophers player goes to the corner and puts his hands over his face because he could not believe he didn't end the game right there. He's like, how in the hell? So, but yeah, congrats to him. Emotional does help. Probably the best competition as far as rankings for the weekend. Uh, but we'll find out more once conference play fully starts up, even though it's pretty much going on this weekend.
And I will say, let's go through the standings real quick. I mean, it's a couple teams at the bottom just because they haven't played yet. Will you please, for the love of God, cooperate with me just
No,
one time, computer?
no. Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
I do think that the standings are pretty um, on par with what would be the power rankings to some degree. Other than, the two teams that didn't play, I don't know that they would not be at the bottom if we were to rank them again. Denver's definitely at the top. Actually, you know what? Yeah, no, it would be Denver at the top. I might put North Dakota at 2 right now. I think that's kind of where they've been, but they're playing some tough teams. They're competing with them. They did not chintz out on their uh, non-conference schedule. It's been very
Yeah.
competitive, and they've been in most of those games. I think so. It'd be Denver, North Dakota, St. Cloud would be my third team. The thing that hurts them is Miami's not that strong of an opponent. Um, no, actually, you know what? Nope, they would be. I think I'd put them 4. I think Western deserves to be 3. They've yet to lose in regulation. They've got a winning record. They're third in the conference. Their non-conference schedule hasn't been ridiculously tough, but they've handled the games in a manner which I think we're accustomed to seeing higher ranked teams handle those games. Um, their offense is clicking like we knew it would be. They're improving defensively, and it's really what you want to see. Power play is coming along. They got to stay out of the box. And then I would put St. Cloud at 4. The wins over Miami, again, not super duper impressive. Um, even though Miami does have a winning record right now.
They do.
I would put Minnesota Duluth at 5. Even though they're
That
sitting
seems
at
fair.
exactly 300, they got 3 wins, 3 losses, 3 ties. Um, it's really between
No,
them and
5.
what?
I was gonna say 5 seems absolutely fair for them.
Oh yeah. Omaha. Omaha's a tough one to place. I think they deserve to be 6th right now. Their non-conference schedule doesn't yell at me. I don't. They haven't had really the most convincing win is an overtime win against Western, a team that they compete with and usually sweep at home. Um, so for them, they took only 2 points on the weekend. It's kind of more of a loss for them than it is a hang your hat on victory for Western. So yeah, I put them at 6, Colorado College at 7, just because they've been a better team than Miami has, but they're struggling against their regular opponent, their main rival of Denver, and they've got to figure that situation out. And then Miami, unfortunately, they're still the bottom dweller. They've been the floor of the conference for quite a few years, and while they've improved in their non-conference schedule, the conference is going to get you winning. The conference is going to do more for you than just skating by in your non-conference schedule if you can't compete in the conference.
Yeah, and I think for Miami, I mean, they have not even the bar that they have set, depending on how you want to look at it. I don't know if it can go much lower, and they've done nothing to even make us hop a little bit to get over that for being the bottom. But if you're talking about the bottom, they've set that bar so high that, I mean, I don't even think the tallest man in the world would have trouble limboing underneath it. And they need to either move that bar down or raise that bar up to make themselves competitive. They don't do anything.
No, and you can't even say that it's the coach didn't have his guys. I mean, we're in the 5th year with the coach. He's definitely getting his guys there. So I don't know what's going on, but that might be something we delve into later or in the off season if the coach is still around to really look into it. But they've got to figure something out. Everyone's already screaming for them to leave the conference and find somewhere else to play. I don't think that's the solution, but that talk might get louder depending on what Arizona State comes in and does. So I think that's gonna.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say with Miami, the problem is people want them out of the conference or whatever. It doesn't matter what conference they get in. Like if they leave this conference and go to another one, they're still gonna be bad. They're gonna be really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in Atlantic hockey they might stand a chance, but that's about the only conference that they would do well in.
So yeah, we started a little bit late. We know that in season episodes are a little bit longer. We're closing in here on an hour and a half, so we're gonna get out of here. Let you enjoy the rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, whatever the case may be when you're listening to this, watching this, doing whatever you're doing with it. There's some YouTubey stuff if you feel so inclined. There's a like button, there's a share button, there's a subscribe button. You can hit any one of those. There's an unlike button if you choose to dislike or unlike this video. You can do that too. It's your prerogative, your opinions that you're using and making your voice known. There's a comment section down there if you feel so inclined that you wish to talk with us. I get in there and usually answer back within some amount of time. My phone doesn't like to tell me when they come, so I have to just find them and check it periodically. So if I miss it or I'm a little late on your comment, I do apologize. I'll get back to it and hopefully we can chit chat a little bit. If not, or if you're looking for something a little more immediate, our personal Twitter handles have been below our pictures the whole time. There's also a Twitter handle for the channel itself. That is Goalhorns and Fight Songs on Twitter, but it is GOALHRNSNG. If I nope, spell all of that wrong, I'm gonna just wait for it to come by and I'm gonna read it as it scrolls because I don't know what it is off the top of my head and it hurts to remember it. It is going to be a second for it to scroll by. But there's a Gmail account. The Gmail account is Goalhorns and Fight Songs, all one word, all of the letters, none of them missing. It's easy to remember because it's the name of the show, all one word, all spelled out at gmail.com. You can send us emails if you want. Send us ideas or clips that you think would we should talk about or discuss or use in potentially a highlight reel that we may be working on eventually if we figure out how to do it, because some of us suck at computering. Um, and
Whatever side you're on.
some of us just don't do any computering at all to help the show at all ever. Sometimes he does, but sometimes he doesn't. Oh, did I miss it again? God damn it! You know
You
what? We're
just
just gonna.
argued with yourself.
Did not. I pointed at
You
you
just
the
said I
second time.
never do, and then sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. You argued with yourself.
Yeah, you. Sometimes you do. Very rarely. Um, you did technically get our first NHL associated guest, so congrats on that. The one thing you did. All right. The Twitter, the X, the whatever you want to call it, is Goalhorns and Fight Song. It's GOALHRNFIGHTSNG. That is the handle. You can send stuff to us there or message us there or do whatever you're going to do. I don't care. Do it. Do something. Denver, I think, retained the gold pan. I think that was their thing this week. I've got nothing else. I'm pretty sure you don't. Our opinions don't really matter, so we're out here.